Welcome to your Pastify News Update. Global tensions are rising today with three major breaking stories. First, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un signals a deeper role in the Russia-Ukraine war, reportedly praising the extreme sacrifices of his soldiers. Meanwhile, energy markets are in shock as oil prices hit their highest levels since 2022, following reports that Donald Trump is considering new, aggressive options against Iran. And in the Mediterranean, the Israeli Navy intercepts a Gaza-bound flotilla near Crete, detaining 175 activists. You have just heard the headlines. Now for the full report.
Oil prices jumped to their highest since 2022 after a report that the U.S. military is set to brief President Donald Trump on new plans for potential action in the Iran war. Brent crude rose by almost 7% to more than 126 pounds a barrel at one point before falling back. U.S. Central Command has prepared a plan for a wave of short and powerful strikes on Iran to try to break the deadlock in negotiations with Tehran, news site Axios reported. The BBC has contacted U.S. Central Command and the White House for comment. Energy prices have been rising this week as peace talks appear to have stalled, with the key Strait of Hormuz waterway still effectively closed. About 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas, LNG, usually passes through the strait, and the conflict has sent global energy prices soaring. Crude oil is a key ingredient in petrol and diesel, and the jump in costs since the start of the Iran war has pushed up pump prices for motorists. In the UK, petrol currently costs an average of 157 pence a litre, according to motoring group RAC, which is 24 pence higher than before the start of the war. Diesel is at 188.5 pence a litre, up 46 pence compared with its pre-war price. RAC head of policy Simon Williams said that while the price of petrol at the pumps has fallen, our analysis of wholesale costs shows petrol is now more expensive for retailers to buy than at any time since the war began. However, diesel, which has come down by 3 pence a litre, is currently well below its highest wholesale price since the start of the conflict, so should fall further. But the potential impact is wider than just petrol and diesel prices. The UK government has warned people could face higher energy, food, and flight ticket prices as a result of the war. Some airlines have already started to raise fares or reduce flights. Fertilizer prices have also started to increase, which could have a knock-on effect on food prices. Brent crude touched $126.31 a barrel earlier on Thursday, the highest since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. However, the price then fell back sharply later in the day to around $114. The current Brent futures contract for June delivery is due to expire on Thursday. The more active July contract was trading at around $109 a barrel. Futures contracts are agreements to buy or sell an asset at a set date. The Axios report cited anonymous sources, saying the proposed wave of strikes would be likely to include infrastructure targets. Another plan focused on taking over part of the Strait of Hormuz so that it can be reopened for commercial shipping, Axios reported, adding that doing so could involve troops on the ground. Meanwhile, a statement attributed to Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, said that Tehran would secure the Strait of Hormuz and eliminate the enemy's abuses of the waterway. Khamenei's statement on Thursday also said a new chapter for the region had been taking shape since the start of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran on February 28. The U.S. said it would blockade Iranian ports for as long as Tehran continues to threaten vessels that try to use the Strait of Hormuz, severely disrupting global energy shipments. Iran retaliated against U.S.-Israeli airstrikes by threatening to attack ships in the waterway, through which about a fifth of the world's energy usually passes. Oil prices had surged by 6% on Wednesday, following reports that Washington was preparing for an extended blockade of Iran. It does seem as though escalation in the war is back on the table, be it in the guise of the U.S. continuing its blockade in Iran, but also reports and rumors that in order to get out of this bind, Iran may start to strike again, said Naveen Das, senior oil analyst at Kepler. He told the BBC's Today program an oil price approaching $125 is the point where businesses and politicians start to get a bit more jittery. We might start seeing maybe more headlines of trying to de-escalate again, he added. because the increase in prices has a knock-on effect not only on oil, but oil-related products, inflation, and basically every factor of our day-to-day lives. Susanna Streeter, chief investment strategist at Wealth Club, said costs could remain high into next year. Urea shipments used for fertilizer are blocked, and costs have rocketed for farmers around the world who didn't buy stocks in advance. The worry is that all these costs will be passed on through supply chains, pushing up the price of everyday goods later in the year and into next year. The BBC understands that energy executives met Trump on Tuesday to discuss ways to limit the impact of the war on U.S. consumers, fueling concerns in the market about an extended disruption to energy supplies. The big question in my mind is how long the Trump administration can stand the economic heat. Will Walker Arnott, investment manager at Raymond James, told the Today program. People are really beginning to worry about the inflationary impact coming through from the rise in the oil price. At the unveiling of a towering bronze sculpture of North Korean and Russian soldiers in combat, Kim Jong Un praised troops who chose death over capture while fighting in Ukraine. It was a striking and unusually explicit acknowledgement of Pyongyang's long-suspected battlefield doctrine. According to a transcript published by North Korean state media KCNA, Kim declared that those who unhesitatingly opted for self-blasting and suicide attacks had shown the highest form of loyalty, a reference to soldiers throwing themselves on grenades or detonating explosives rather than risk being taken prisoner. Kim made the remarks at the opening of a vast new memorial complex on the outskirts of the capital, walking past rows of freshly laid graves before kneeling to place soil into an open burial site. Inside, bronze statuary and black marble walls etched with names surround displays of soldiers' remains, personal relics, and captured military equipment. The site, part cemetery and part museum, is the centerpiece of a broader campaign to frame the deaths of North Korean soldiers in Russia's war on its neighbor as acts of heroism and patriotic sacrifice. For months, North Korean state media has offered vivid and often graphic accounts of how those soldiers died. Previous reporting has described troops detonating grenades as they were surrounded, shouting for comrades to stay back before triggering the blast, or killing themselves after being wounded to avoid capture. In one account, soldiers embraced each other before setting off explosives for years. Intelligence agencies, Ukrainian officials, and defectors have reported that North Korean soldiers were expected to take their own lives rather than be captured. Pyongyang never confirmed it. Now the doctrine is being endorsed at the highest level, in public, at a site built to honor the war dead. The memorial offers one of the clearest indications yet of the scale of North Korea's involvement in Russia's war. Analysis by NK News found that 2 black marble walls inside the complex list 2,288 names of soldiers believed to have died in combat, alongside 271 graves and more than 1,700 compartments for cremated remains. The complex has expanded walls and empty space for future graves, suggesting this is not a closed chapter. South Korean and Western officials estimate more than 10,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia's Kursk region. With thousands killed or wounded, losses North Korea has not admitted so openly until now. Unveiled on the 1-year anniversary of Russia's declaration of victory in Kursk, with senior Moscow officials in attendance and a message from President Vladimir Putin read aloud. The complex also displays captured military equipment, including what appear to be German Leopard tanks, American Abrams tanks, and other NATO origin systems, though analysts question whether North Korean forces obtained them directly. A small number of North Korean soldiers are known to have been captured alive by Ukrainian forces. Some have said they did not know they would be sent into combat until shortly before deployment, and at least one expressed regret, not for being captured, but for failing to take his own life. Their existence presents a problem for Pyongyang. Under international law, prisoners of war are typically repatriated at the end of hostilities. However, human rights advocates warn that returning them to North Korea could expose them to severe punishment. Officials in South Korea have said they would accept any soldiers who seek to defect, setting up a legal and diplomatic dilemma that could outlast the fighting itself. Pro-Palestinian activists say at least 22 boats from a flotilla carrying aid for Gaza have been intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters near the Greek island of Crete. The organizers of the Global Summit Flotilla, GSF, denounced the action as piracy, saying those on board had been seized unlawfully more than 965 kilometers, 600 miles from Gaza, which is under an Israeli naval blockade. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said about 175 activists from more than 20 boats had been detained and were being transported to Israel. It dismissed the flotilla as a PR stunt. The GSF's tracking data showed most of the remaining 36 boats in the flotilla were close to Crete's south coast. The flotilla set sail 2 weeks ago, with a total of 58 vessels joining from Spain, France, and Italy, aiming to break Israel's blockade of Gaza. On Thursday, the GSF said Israeli naval forces had intercepted, boarded, and systematically disabled and destroyed various boats in the flotilla during a violent raid in international waters, west of Crete overnight. Over 180 civilians from around the world have been directly attacked, it added. After detaining participants, smashing an engine, and jamming communications, the Israeli forces retreated, kidnapping participants or intentionally leaving civilians stranded on powerless, broken vessels directly in the path of a massive approaching storm. Israel insists its actions comply with international law. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said that, due to the large numbers of vessels participating in the flotilla and the risk of escalation, and the need to prevent the breach of a lawful blockade, an early action was required. The operation was carried out in international waters peacefully and without any casualties. An initial inspection of the vessels revealed materials that appeared to be drugs and contraceptives, it added. The ministry also accused the flotilla's organizers of joining hands with the Palestinian armed group Hamas, with the aim of sabotaging President Trump's Gaza peace plan transition to its second phase, and intended to divert attention from Hamas's refusal to disarm. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni condemned the seizure and demanded Israel immediately release all the unlawfully detained Italians. Italian media reported that 24 Italians had been detained. Meloni also called for the full respect of international law and guarantees on the physical safety of the people on board. European Union Foreign Affairs spokesman Anwar El-Anoni told reporters, "We reiterate our call on Israeli authorities to respect international law, including international humanitarian law and international maritime law." Greece has not publicly commented on the incident, but center-left opposition politician Dimitris Mansos called on the government to say what it knew and explain how it would respond to this illegal act. Tariq Raouf, a Palestinian-American writer and activist, told BBC News Arabic he was on one of the flotilla's support vessels in Greek waters. "The spirits on board are high. We are determined to keep doing what we can to support the ending of Israel's illegal siege on Gaza," he said. "I am feeling shocked and dismayed at the impunity of Israel's actions, and how they have managed to break international law repeatedly, but most especially this far away from Gaza." Israel stopped the previous flotilla set up by the GSF from reaching Gaza last October, arresting and then deporting more than 470 people who were on board, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. According to the GSF, the latest flotilla's objectives are to challenge Israel's illegal blockade, advance the opening of a permanent humanitarian corridor, and intensify coordinated international pressure on governments and corporations complicit in its enforcement. Kogat, the Israeli defense body that controls Gaza's land crossings, said Israel was facilitating the entry of aid into Gaza and that there was no limit on the amount of aid that can enter. Earlier this week, a senior UN official warned that the situation in Gaza was steadily worsening, with the territory's 2.1 million population facing ongoing and deadly Israeli strikes and dire humanitarian conditions. While some improvements in access and aid delivery have been observed in recent weeks, unpredictable access, limited operational crossings, and restrictions on critical humanitarian items termed as dual use by Israel continue to constrain UN response. UN Assistant Secretary General Khaled Kiari told the Security Council. Food security remains a challenge, while essential services, particularly water, sanitation, and health, are again on the brink of collapse, he added. Last August, experts from the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, confirmed there was a famine in Gaza City. In December, they said there had been improvements in nutrition and food supplies following a ceasefire agreed by Israel and Hamas in October as part of.
That's all for now on these developing stories. The global landscape is changing fast, and we will be here to bring you the latest as it happens. If you found this report informative, please give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective on these global shifts. For more deep dives and real-time breaking news, make sure to subscribe to Pacitify and turn on the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.